Hello, the common cold here. Now, I got an email from Donna, and Donna asked whether I wanted to try their newest product, the Kebab, the Essential L1. And to be honest, I kind of didn't at the time, and so I ignored them. But then, the geniuses, they asked again. And by the time the second email rolled around, well, A, I'd done a bit of research and realised, actually, this thing's quite interesting. And B, they had emailed me twice, and so I legally could not turn them down. And so I am now the proud owner of a Donna Essential L1. Here it is. Sorry, it detaches its appendage when threatened, like many species of lizard. Anyway, this is the Donna L1, and this thing behind me, it technically isn't, although it is related, and we'll get onto that in a bit. But for now, I want to start by saying I love the way that this thing is laid out. And actually, that's the thing you can't really give Donna too much credit for, because, brace yourself, because this might come as a shock in the modern synthesizer landscape, but this is actually a loving recreation of a classic synth from a bygone era. Yeah, notwithstanding a few actually incredibly worthwhile upgrades, this is basically an SH-101. And if you've forgotten which one the SH-101 is, it was that Roland product from the 80s that was initially a commercial failure, but which would later become an enormous classic. Hopefully that narrows it down a bit. Now, the 101 was a pretty simple design, and so the L1 is as well. And for someone with a dumb, stupid brain like myself, that works great. In fact, I almost think this is like the platonic ideal of just a straightforward analog monosynth. For example, let me show you the transcendent experience of picking your waveforms on this thing. Watch, I'll hold down a key and I'll hear nothing because all of these sliders are all the way down. And then you just mix in one or several of the ones you want to hear. A square, a sawtooth, a triangle, noise, and an external input. Simple, right? Oh, there's a sub-oscillator as well. In so many other synths, you're normally dealing with a setup something like this, where you pick your waveforms in hard increments. You want a saw wave? Put it in saw mode. You want to back that up with a bit of square action? Put a second oscillator in square mode, and you have now hit your waveform limit. Say now that I wanted to get this beautiful triangle involved, I could not do that without sacrificing one of these two waves. Donna L1 says, want some triangle? There you go. And you might wonder why I'm leading with this micro grievance that probably no one else has ever thought about. But it's to illustrate the point early on that this is essentially an instant gratification synth. And I'm Gen Z, so that's a compliment. The whole appeal of something like this is that because everything is so simply laid out, you can imagine a sound, and chances are, within like 30 seconds of tweaking, you're going to be most of the way there. I showed you the triangle wave, by the way, and you know what other synth can't do triangle waves? The SH-101. That's right, this slider is a certified Donna original, and I love that they put it here because I love a triangle wave. So thanks. Now, let's make like a keen mailman and talk about envelopes. See, the original 101 had just the one envelope, and you could choose to have it affect your amp, or your filter, or both. You know, fairly versatile for what it is, but at the end of the day, still just one envelope controlling your entire life. Like, A-level results day or an eviction notice. The L1 just gives you a whole other one. There are 2 envelopes now, and they can control new things as well, like the oscillator pitch. I think it's a really thoughtful and impactful change. Like, it doesn't sacrifice that fundamental SH-101 source, but it does just mean that you can get substantially more sonically out of this than you could out of the original. We can show off these envelopes and most of what I've talked about so far by doing one of my favourite things to do with any synth, which is not making synth sounds. I like making drums, like this, or this. Everything I've discussed so far with the mixer and the 2 envelopes makes this a pretty immediate and versatile drum synth. Like, for instance, you can get yourself to Kick City in record time. From here, where everything's open, you can carve out a percussive envelope for your amp. Neat. Then, instead of hearing any of these waveforms, we can do the second oldest trick in the synth book. It comes just after plugging them in, and that is to turn the resonance all the way up so that the filter is self-oscillating. That right there is a sine wave, if ever I heard one, and the only thing separating that from a kick is a big fat pitch contour, like kind of like a doof, doof. So in comes our additional envelope. We'll leave it at an instant attack, very little sustain, and a short decay and release. And then we crank up this slider, i.e. the effect that this second envelope has on the filter. And now, welcome to the club. Oh yeah, would you look at that? There's a sequencer. It has just been staring us down the whole time. At any given point, you can have 4 slots loaded, and each of those slots has a sequence of 64 steps each, which you can then chain together for a lot. And there's no Korg style motion sequencing, which is a bit of a shame, but still, it's super immediate, and there are just enough tricks to get a decent little stew going. You just hit record, tell it the notes you want to hear, maybe a couple rests, it's important to take breaks, and once you're happy, you can play it through. And then maybe you iterate through the sequence like this, and dial in a few ties, and the speed of those is going to depend on this knob over here, and soon enough you have a passable bass line. If you don't even want to bother coming up with a lovingly crafted bass line like this one ahead of time, you can just use an ARP. You hit some notes, caress this little hold button, and now that means both arms are free, which means you can use one to tweak the settings, and the other one to dial in some big fat effects, and then your foot to upload it to Bandcamp as an ambient meditation. So this video's been pretty dense so far, and that shouldn't surprise you because I made it. However, what I want to do now is just step back a little and look at this guy slightly more holistically. You know, in a whole room full of synths, what does the L1 bring to the party? Okay, fine, don't answer. Well, for me, it all comes back to what I was saying earlier about the fact that this is essentially an immediacy machine. It's a compact and deliberate design, and yeah, that means that there aren't a million controls or infinite possibilities, but it also means that there is just no fat here whatsoever. That everything here matters, and so sound design becomes this streamlined process where you just jump in, make a sound, and then get lost tweaking it. You know, probably so much that you lose the thread of whatever it was you were making in the first place and end up somewhere else entirely. Flow state. And obviously a lot of that identity is inherited from the SH-101, however, it's the clever little changes that Donna made that add just a few more possibilities without losing that luscious, flowy goodness that defines a synth like this. And hey, speaking of flowy goodness, no presets, none. And that might be a deal breaker for you. However, I am being genuinely serious when I say that I think that it works in service of, you know, the kind of loose, come what may mindset that you've got to adopt when you're using a synth like this. There are no comfort zones to fall back on, and so you end up approaching it in this relaxed way. You know, you embrace happy accidents, and when you do hit upon a banger of a sound, you enjoy it, you know, cherish the moment, and then eventually it's going to be gone. 3 facts, by the way. Nothing is forever. This too shall pass. And someday, pretty soon, we all will be dust. Why do I know these things? Because I've used the Donna L1 for a month, and now I have embraced impermanence. Hey, let's talk about build. It's reasonable. I mean, it's not built like a tank or anything, but there's a reassuring little weight to it, more so than I expected. These sliders, they feel fine. These knobs here feel downright good. I mean, check this out. Just listen to this noise. That's a banger. If I ever remade my acoustic synth video, I would totally use that. It's excellent. It's small, but for me, it doesn't really feel cramped, although bear in mind I do have tiny little baby hands, so your mileage may vary on that. But to be honest, I really like that it's so compact, and it makes it a lot easier to justify having something like this out in a room compared to, for instance, the original SH-101, which compared to this is massive. And I'm aware that I'm being quite positive right now, so I'll bring in some balance by saying that it uses these 3.5mm MIDI connectors, and they make me want to climb out of my skylight and scream. And hey, take a close little look at the top here. You'll see that actually I've kept this plastic cover on the whole time, and that is because every single reviewer reckons that this is a massive fingerprint magnet. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to test it live, okay? You ready? This I've had this for about a month, but I'm making it official. There we go. And fingerprint test, join me for this. Yep, I can see it. Hang on, I'll pull in the camera. It's a shame actually, because otherwise this top bit looks so slick, and I do quite like the design there. It's also got this really weird issue, right? Check this out. Sometimes it just breaks in half. What's that about? Yeah, it's the big hook. It's this detachable magnetic keyboard, and it really is pretty nifty. You just bring it close and they snap together, and it does just work. And then I think the idea is that Donna will put out more synths in this form factor, and with any one of them you'll be able to snap on this keyboard and it'll make up this this big magnetic happy family. It is a smart concept and, dare I say, convenient, and it does help it to be this compact, which is a thing that I just said that I liked. So yeah, credit to Donna for doing something new and interesting. The quality of the keyboard is fine. It kind of feels like that Akai keyboard everyone used to get in 2017. It'll do the job, and in fact it will work as a regular MIDI keyboard for other gear as well. And obviously if you've already got a keyboard that you want to use, you could just get this module on its own and save a bit of space. In fact, you can even control this module with these sequencer buttons here. But yeah, don't. But yeah, I'd say so. I really like the L1, and in no small part that's because I really like the synth it's based on. Basically, I'm just a sucker for something that's all about immediacy and fun over having, like, you know, a million different controls, about 3 of which you'll ever use. For me, there's just this joyful 101 source, and obviously the L1 is going to carry that over, but it also makes these really thoughtful little additions, like the triangle wave, like the envelope, that just make it a bit more versatile without losing that fundamental, beautiful simplicity. You can pick holes in it, you know, maybe a lack of presets is one of those, maybe some motion sequencing would have made it better. I mean, call me a little freak. I would have loved to have seen some built-in effects on this, because that's just the kind of beast that I am. But fundamentally, what I've actually got behind me is inspiring and fun. And at the end of the day, that's really all that I want my hardware synths to be. You know, endless functionality, for me, that is the domain of the DAW. I want my hardware synths to have good vibes. Mojo, as I've said before. And I think that the L1 does have that. Should you get one, that's up to you. I got mine for free, and so I'm spiritually compromised and cannot help you with that decision. However, Donna did give me an affiliate link, so if you do want one, that's down in the description. You can get a little discount, but genuinely, I'm not trying to sell you this thing, okay? I'm just giving you my thoughts. Please listen to the thoughts of others as well. Especially if the thoughts of others might convince you to subscribe to my YouTube channel.